Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with SpeakEasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. We are here. It's the end of October, episode 50, and I have an awesome guest with me today, Pete Schramm with Latitude. And I am so thrilled to have him on. We've been talking for quite some time, and now we are here, my friend. So welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday if you're watching live, and happy whatever day and time it is if you're watching the rerun. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. So we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube right now. So if you are going to catch us live, ask questions as we go. I'm here to learn from Pete. If you have questions in your mind, others might have them as well. I've got a brand new blog on the website at SpeakEasy HR. It's all about forgiveness. A lot of people work with challenging people at times. And so sometimes you have to just take some reflection and think about how you can forgive and move on. So check that out and all of the other content at speakeasyhr.com. So we're going to be doing a couple of things. We're going to be going through a little bit about Pete, hearing about Pete's background and what he's been into, what he's focused on right now in his work. And we're going to dive into the envelope icebreaker game, which is something I really enjoy doing with all of my guests to hear a little bit more about their background. And then we're going to dive into his topic, which is all about building mentorship in your mapping career and really diving into really things that Pete has really focused on and has some really hot takes and things that people, as you are maybe out of a job right now, you're looking for a job, maybe you're trying to shift careers, maybe you're a young professional in your first few jobs as a young professional and navigating through all of what's going on right now in the workplace. So really excited to dive into all of that. But if you are new to Speakeasy HR, my name is David Noe. I started this last year and it's been such an enjoyable time to bring this to everybody. I joined the Work Defined podcast community where Pete and I are involved in this amazing community of podcasts. Yes, thank you. I'm gonna get this before I forget. Mini air horn, which is my favorite new little toy. The guys at Work Defined have been doing an amazing job of bringing on new guests, new hosts, and podcasts. So if you are just looking for a new podcast to check out, go to workdefined.com and you can find those. And Pete and I are out there as well, so you can check all of our episodes out. But Pete, if you want to start and kind of tell us a little bit about your background and kind of where you grew up and what you wanted to be when you were in grade school, I don't know, go wherever you want.
Yeah, so I grew up with parents that were always guiding me in the right direction. And even if I was to veer off path, they were saying, hey, this is really where you should be spending your time, people you should be surrounding yourselves with. And I didn't really know, for better or for worse, but I said, hey, if it worked for them, then they must know something. So it all started on a farm in Western Pennsylvania,
Okay.
David. And from there, my parents instilled in me this principle that we're here and our purpose is to better the lives of those around us. And I said, okay, cool. Well, how in the world am I going to do that? And as I progressed from, grade school to high school to then college, I understood that not everybody had the same kind of parents. And it was a lot of tough love. But man, I'm so grateful for the values and hard work ethic that they instilled in me all those years ago. So as I progressed through getting my undergrad in mechanical engineering, graduate degree in mechanical engineering, never had a job in mechanical engineering to date, but learned how to think and solve problems and work through different complex things that the world throws our way, right? And so I went into defense contracting for about a decade, actually. And it was on that journey that I really learned that the power of people helping people can make it or break it. And so I asked my boss early on, I said, how can I be the best employee that you ever had? He said, well, you got to find yourself a mentor. I said, great, I'm on it. What does that mean? Where do I find one? When do we chat? What do we talk about? And so over the next few years, I realized that other people were on a similar journey. And so we'll get into the result and what I decided to do with my time. But as you alluded to and shared up on the screen, founder and CEO of Latitude. which is a company that does exactly that. Help people connect, grow, develop, thrive inside of an organization. Whole lot
Yeah.
of lives to change.
Yeah. Yeah, so you and I connected through a mutual friend, and that's really how I get connected to a lot of people on this podcast is through others that I connect with, and then they reach out and say, "Hey, I've got a few people I want to introduce you to." So that was probably 6 to 8 months ago, and now here we are, and, so, yeah, you've done some amazing work, and so if you are watching live, you can scan the QR code, go to, Latitude, golatitude.com, and check out his work. So,
Well, real quick, David, I think it's important. Call those folks out, right? Between Bob and John and Jody, there's so many amazing people out there, and you'll see in some of the show notes, and I'll make sure to
that's
comment them on
true.
the show here.
That's
Like,
true.
thanks, guys. That's what makes this possible is people
Yes,
helping people. You gave a
yes,
shout out to the work to find folks earlier. Like, yes, that's why we do this to keep bringing folks together. Yeah, let's go. Top shelfers around with top shelfers.
that's right, and we're episode 50, so we got a lot to celebrate here, Pete. So, okay, I gave you this question right before we got on, and I like to ask every guest this question, and then we'll get into the envelope icebreaker game, which is a little bit more fun. This one's more serious. Biggest piece of advice you've ever received?
Yeah, don't do it alone. And you could translate that to don't go the distance alone, don't be in your head. This could be at work, this could be at sports, this could be at home. But the best piece of advice is to don't do it alone. If we're working through an issue, sometimes we have to bounce some ideas off of one another. If we're in a hard spot or a hard time, right? Whenever we just dwell on that, not super great. The best teams we see this are bringing the most diverse team members, insights, experiences together. So it's something that was shared to me, and then I made it uniquely my own over the years. Don't start hosting a company around the idea of don't go alone.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm always interested to hear how people answer that question. So, thank you very much for sharing. All right, you ready for the envelope icebreaker?
Yeah, I'll do a little drum roll over here for us. So let's go.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, 1 through 15. You pick a number, and I open the envelope.
Lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7.
Yep.
Okay. Number 7. Oh, okay. Just so everyone knows, I'm not cheating. Number 7. We got what's a random skill or talent you have that people are always surprised by?
Mm. It's either stone carving, or
Stone
pottery,
carving.
or splitting wood.
Okay. All
Mhm.
right. I didn't see that one coming, but all right. That's exciting.
Absolutely love it. You can,
Stone carving.
yeah, for some of those, you're able to get a little bit of a workout in. I had some, I don't know where my pots or my stones are around here,
So,
but I should probably put them in the background again.
yeah, so how does one get into that? Like what started that?
Yeah, so whenever I transferred from a public high school into Swickley Academy, greater Pittsburgh area, they do these
Okay.
things where they help you take electives and you're able to
Yeah.
choose what you want to do. And
Okay.
I kind of said the same thing. I'm like, stone carving and pottery, ceramics. What the heck is this? I've seen it in like movies and I read about it in books, but I can actually do that. And that's, yeah, quick plug for sure to Swickley Academy in the community. Go over, check it out. A lot of great things happening, and Mr. Lalomia was one of the greatest teachers that I've ever had. He taught both of those classes. And it was just a remarkable opportunity to do something different, put yourself in that zone of uncomfort, right? Find success and find new things outside of our comfort zone.
Yep.
And you're able to use your hands, use your mind, be creative, screw up, right? Throw some Miss Frizzle on there from the Magic School Bus. We got messy, make mistakes, and try again. And I thought there was a lot of life lessons, but also it was a lot of fun to just do that. And express yourself with different materials and different manners. And usually the folks that are doing those kinds of activities are pretty fun to be around as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing. That is one thing I did not know about you until now, and I'm sure many haven't heard that, but well done. That's exciting. All right. So, just a few messages from our presenting sponsor, Payroll Partners. So, for those of you live, thank you for hanging out with us as part of your Monday. It's lunchtime if you're in the Midwest Eastern time zone. It's 12:15. So, enjoy just a couple of seconds with our presenting sponsor. Grab a drink, and then we'll get into the topic with Pete here. 1 second.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, posting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
So, if part of your job is to focus on technology with your business, big or small, we can help you. Look us up. I was once a prospect. Now I work for the amazing company Payroll Partners, and we just have just a very unique approach to service, technology, customization. So, check us out. Look me up on LinkedIn. Would love to hear about your situation, see if we can help. So, Pete, just like everyone else I bring on here, I like to really bring up a topic that you are passionate about as a guest, you have insights on, you have studied and worked on. And this one, I think, is one that I haven't really had many people bring on and talk about. So it's very unique. So for the 50th episode, I appreciate you bringing this insight. But it is the top shelf topic is your personal boardroom, building mentors and mapping careers. So I love this topic. I think it's so important and it sounds powerful. So how do you define it, and what inspired you to build one for yourself?
Well, it ties back together of the background, the journey, that piece of advice that somebody gave me. I took action on those
Yeah,
pieces, right? So, hey, go find yourself a mentor. Cool. Well, trial and error, figure out what works, what doesn't work. Whole lot of what doesn't work, by the way. And then we get into, well, if one of these people as a guide is a good thing, then remember what we said, those diverse insights, perspectives, and experiences for good teams. And if we're going to do that for teams and we're going to diversify the board at an organization or a company, for profit, nonprofit, why
yeah,
don't we do that for ourselves? So, having a diverse set of guides, advisors, mentors, champions, what that might be for us, not one size fits all. That's what this concept is all about. And so, I'm able to go to an individual and say, hey, can I bounce this idea off of you? Of course, I follow the Pathfinder's methodology. I have my stuff in order. I have my questions, my agenda, some things follow up from the last conversation that we talked about. And I can go from David to Jody to Bob to John and have slightly different kinds of conversations, different
yeah,
insight, perspective, and
yeah,
experience. That's
yeah.
the idea. We have boards to guide organizations through growth, for strategy, for accountability. Now we have the opportunity to add some structure to this concept for us as professionals.
Yeah, and don't leave if you are watching live. Don't leave if you can wait until the end. We are going to have everyone watching write career map in the chat, and we are going to enter you for a copy of the book that Pete wrote, Pathfinder. So take a look, and try to, there you go, try to stay on with us until the end. So obviously, if you are already joining and listening, we're going to all learn from Pete over the next 30 minutes, but hang out, try to think of questions to ask, and we'll check them in the chat. But obviously, put in career map, and we'll put you in the drawing, and Pete will reach out and send you a copy. So Pete, many people struggle to find mentors. When you had talked about, you asked your boss, like, how do I become the best employee? Where should someone start when they feel like they don't have access to the right people?
Yeah, you got to start with the mindset. Once you are aware of, hey, I read this book, I listened to David's podcast, I heard Pete, it's mentioned and referenced plenty of different places, but you got to say, okay, I think I need this. Here's why I need this. Here's where I'm able to incorporate this. I have the time. So it's kind of check yourself first. Then the first place to go, if you're employed, ask your direct supervisor, whoever's signing your time card. Hey, I was same thing, listen to this, read this. I got to get a mentor. Who might you suggest as 2 to 3 people for me to explore as potential mentors? Who has been helpful to you? And maybe could I have a conversation with them to learn more about the process, understanding that they may be very busy, but perhaps they might be able to connect me to some others. So that's the first piece right there. The other piece is to, as we talk about in the book, personal board of advisors. It's not just one mentor, not just people above you, 2, 3, 4 levels above you, but also on the same level. So you can think about your team and those folks that you really hit it off with well. Another one to think about is somebody that does work on in your organization, on your team, also reports to the same leader. And that might be a good person, but thinking about it from the lens of, we don't want those Franks and phonies and fakes on our personal board as we're going through this. So, not all potential prospects are created equal. Very important. We can also find great mentors, advisors, and guides through sports, through our family, through volunteer activities, by going to conferences and events. Disrupt HR coming soon. The HR collaborative, check it out, right? Lots of great opportunity. LinkedIn,
Yeah.
you can have these virtual mentors. I think about it like telehealth, David. Um, some people say, "Oh, I got to be in the office to see my doctor." Okay, great. Well, what if you were able to just have a phone call and do that today instead of waiting 6 months to be in the office? Wouldn't that be better than nothing? So there's a lot of different ways that we can go about it, but we have to start with ourselves and our own mindset first.
Yeah. I love that. So, how can someone identify the different roles that belong in your personal boardroom, right? Like a coach, challenger, connector. How do they identify those?
Yeah, so we talk about 10 different board seats in the book. And whenever we think about like historic legacy mentoring programs, that's probably going to be your functional mentor or your cross functional mentor, right? Those are two, and that's somebody who's been in your shoes before, done your work, functional mentor. Whereas a cross functional mentor is somebody, if I'm in HR, for example, this person's probably come from engineering or legal or marketing. And then we also have our supervisors should be on our board. I was just talking to somebody this weekend, believe it or not, and they said, "Wait, you have a one-on-one with your manager more than just once every 2 months?" I'm like, yeah, that's how it ought to be, believe it or not. Hopefully, it's closer to once every 1, 2, 3 weeks at max. And I'm curious if we get some feedback from folks that are listening and watching.
Yeah.
What do you think is the ideal? Maybe it's not current state, what's truly happening right now, but how often do you think you should be having a one-on-one with, and if it's like a split level or something like that, that's not what I'm talking about. You sign their time card, you're doing their performance review. How often and frequently should you be having those structured one-on-one conversations where you have it on the calendar? That's what the agenda is for. We
Yep.
also talk about the buddy. That's that peer to peer, right? More informal whenever it comes to the board. And you might have a buddy program at your organization. Well, I ask the question of, what do you do with that buddy program after day one, week one, month one, year one? Because that integration and assimilation process goes far beyond just that initial checking the box and compliance transactional aspect of things. So those are the first four, and then we get into a couple of other ones over time. One more that I'll just share briefly here is the champion, right? That's somebody who's your boss's level, right? So 2+ levels ahead of you. And that's whenever we really start to take that career map and reverse engineer it. Think begin with the end in mind. And they're able to share how we fit in with the organization's values, the mission, those different directives, and say, hey, what does this mean to you? How am I able to impact and influence the larger picture here?
Yep.
I don't really get it. And that's just a big, question or comment or tidbit to share out there to the group is it's okay to not have all the answers. And it's
Yeah.
okay to go into these conversations with a little bit of vulnerability and uncertainty. And whenever you find that you're able to do that in a comfortable manner, gosh,
Yeah.
watch out because
Yeah.
that relationship might just change your life.
Yeah. And I do challenge everyone listening live to put in the comments if you have had a mentor, like what did you get out of that? Was it helping get connected to a company for a job? Was it something beyond your understanding of what a mentor does? Like just anybody that has had a good experience with a mentor, put it in the chat. I would love to just see what people say because you look at a mentor group and I look at it as that is a group of people that you trust when they are giving you advice and you're talking to them about a situation. They can give you tools and knowledge to try to help. And so it really sometimes you might get some advice that you may not fully agree with. So in your experience, Pete, what are some of the signs in that situation where you might have to restructure that boardroom a little bit?
So we actually go through a 14-point checklist in the book around, hey, is this person a good fit, not good fit? Some of us may have, whenever we were in grade school or high school, put together a list of non-negotiables whenever it comes to dating.
Right.
Well, similar thing with this, right?
Yeah.
Before, as we are going through this process, saying, hey, I think I need to have a mentor. Inside our head, we say, yeah, I'm ready for this right now. Then we start to put together that list, right? What am I going to settle on? What looks best? And we do that 14-point checklist, board seat by board seat by board seat, believe it or not. But some of the basic ones are we aligned on our values? Can we actually hang out and pass what the book Bluefishing calls as the chug test, right? Am I able to just be in the proximity or in conversation with this individual?
Yeah.
Are they able to give feedback in a way that works with me? Big one that's a total deal breaker is, do they have time? A lot of times you'll
Yeah.
reach out to somebody and say, hey, can we just grab coffee, have a conversation, bounce some ideas off you as we're in the dating stage, right? Before we DTR, that's define the relationship, I learned. And then we get into that piece of, okay, I feel good about this, but then they might say, hey, big project just came my way. David, let's just circle back in 6 months. Or it might be the same piece of, Pete comes over and knocks on my door or sends me an email once a month for 6 months and I haven't gotten back to him. But gosh, on that lucky number 7, just like our icebreaker envelope earlier, lucky number 7, they may reply back. So
Yeah.
don't give up.
Yeah. So a comment in the comment section, Celeste said clarity on a path forward to address an issue. So love that.
High five, Celeste. Thank you.
Way to go,
I think it's
Celeste.
so important. Oh, there we go. Nice.
The air horn for Celeste. Thank you. So Pete, how can someone give back to their mentors and make that relationship mutually beneficial rather than one-sided kind of situation?
This is a really complex one. I spent a lot of time researching this, and I've asked a lot of different people and come up with the very technical, complex answer of ask them.
Right.
Hey, David, how can I help you? You've been so helpful to me. This has been so valuable. I don't. What can I do to say thank you? Please, just let me know whether I'm able to do it or not. At least I have it in the back of my mind. What's a way that I can show my appreciation and potentially help you?
Yeah.
Please help me understand.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot in the last 6 to 12 months about reverse mentoring.
Mhm.
So is that becoming something that is the norm, or is that just very situational where you have and maybe people that might not know what reverse mentoring is, maybe just dive into that a little bit, but have you seen that become the norm in your work?
So I might differ a little bit from the dictionary definition here. I think it's most effective whenever we build reverse mentoring concepts and themes into each of the relationships on our personal board, where it is that sense of reciprocity and giving back and up to down, down to up throughout. But the idea or concept of reverse mentoring is the person with more experience is actually in reverse, learning from the individual that has less experience. And
Yeah.
typically, typically what happens is, we did some work with this in the Department of Defense and IT arena, right? So a older individual might be not as tech savvy. Well, believe it or not, more of the younger individuals are quite tech savvy and up with slang and up with hey, what's motivating you at work? So that's one example of it. But I think that's something where, hey, we can flip that script in any single conversation or relationship, so that we're able to truly get the most out of each of those.
Yeah.
Not even just the relationship, sure, but each of those conversations and interactions. There has to be, for the optimal success, give and take, take and give.
Yeah. You talk a lot about mapping careers. What are the first steps to creating a personal career map that actually guides decision making?
Well, let's think about it. We go on a journey, we get into a car, you're driving from Ohio or Kentucky, and you want to get out to Pinehurst, right? You're going on a road trip, right? We got to
Yeah.
play some golf. And actually, everybody stay tuned for a very exciting book on this topic, weaving leadership and golf together, coming soon. So, anyways, David hops into his car. He's probably going to turn on a podcast or something. But what do you do first? You put into your GPS, hey, where am I going? Well, you're going to Pinehurst to play some golf. What do you probably do? Talk to some people along the way. Hey, I'm headed out here. What courses should I hit? What courses should I stay away from? And what happens as you're going on this journey? Have different conversations. You might pull off and say, "Hey, I need to go to get some food. Go to this restaurant. Take a pit stop." These things happen, right? What's going to happen? The GPS is going to update along the way if there's construction. Same thing happens with our career map. We're doing that with our profession, well, with our life, right? We have a little bit of a plan. We're getting feedback from others. We're able to base it off of where we've been to forecast and get a better idea of where we want to go. And it might change along the way. And we might find other places that we could or should explore and travel to as we're going. So in the simplest way to think about it, a career map is something that maps our professional journey. I talk about it in 5 dimensions: past, present, and future. And we look at this with multiple options and potential paths in the future side of it. And we build this in collaboration with our personal board of advisors.
So I haven't been to a Bucky's yet. Have you been to a Bucky's?
Couple of them, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I am. I want to get to one. It's just not been part of my journey yet.
The
As
biggest
I,
one in the world is coming close to you, 2 miles long.
whew, okay, I haven't heard about that. We'll have to. Is it in Ohio, Kentucky? Can you
In
share?
Ohio,
You
well,
got
yeah,
the
it's
insights?
public knowledge. Yeah, it's in Ohio. I think it's close to like Columbus, Dayton-ish area, and they had to like reroute their water systems and such for it because it's such a big ordeal. Back
Yikes!
to Bucky's.
Yikes! Well, so we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. It is the 50th episode of this fun journey I've called SpeakEasy HR, and the podcast where we uncover a lot and have uncut, unfiltered, authentic conversations. Today is with Pete Schramm, so appreciate him being on. Normally I'm on at 2 p.m., but shifted it up to noon so that Pete could come on and get all of his other obligations fulfilled. So I appreciate you being available. So Pete, how do you balance the organic relationship building with intentional and strategic mindset, about your network?
Let's assume we've already said, yes, we want to do mentorship. We've started to put together that 14-point checklist for the first mentor. We've gone through and said, hey, of those 10 potential board of advisors seats, here's the first 5 or 6 that I'm going to try and fill. Maybe I have 1 or 2 of them filled. So now I have an idea of here's those individuals that I'm trying to surround myself with. Now I need to go and try and identify who they are, where they are, if they're a good fit. So we can think about it from anytime we're meeting an individual, we can be thinking, hey, could I be helping them? Could they be helping me? Could it be, support to somebody else that I know along the way? So that's one piece. Whenever we're going through the networking opportunities and events, in person, virtual, right? There's so many chances for us to just ask. And, would you ever say no to somebody if they reached out on LinkedIn and said, hey, what's been the biggest success whenever you were a mentor to somebody else?
Yeah.
How's that for some cold outreach, huh? Doesn't
Right.
sound like they're trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
Please make sure that you have a profile picture, and you have, if you're reaching out to an English speaker, you have English in your headline and on your profile page. It makes it very, very sus um if you're not. So just some quick tips there, but just having those conversations, and by understanding what you're trying to accomplish and the who you're trying to surround yourself with, then you can start to work through it. And put yourself in different opportunities and arenas. I think Rotary Club is a fantastic one, been super remarkable from a connection, service above self. I align with the organization. I was just explaining it to somebody yesterday. Did you know that that organization is one that is responsible for helping solve this world issue of polio?
No, and it's funny because I just went to a coffee meeting and someone had mentioned Rotary, and I haven't heard Rotary in quite some time. So it's just it's fascinating that you brought that up.
We're back, baby. Get
We're back,
check it
baby.
out. And it's one of those great networks. Also,
Yeah.
people at church, right? Doesn't matter which church you go to, but a lot of times we just go in and we leave, and it's an opportunity to chat with individuals.
Yeah.
And you have that large community. Chamber of Commerce, that's something else that there's each town. Mhm,
Chambers. I love them.
that we live in, and there's a lot of free events. You might have to pay a little bit, but if you're on a tight budget, what if
Yeah.
you're just to reach out to the person in charge, or the person that is doing the marketing, or somebody else that's always interacting and commenting on the chamber's posts on social for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 posts, and say, hey, could I come as a guest to just check this out? Want to meet more people, want to explore what's possible. So we
Yep.
got a lot of different options there, and there's probably a whole slew more that we could explore if we had more time.
Yeah. Stuart, thank you. Reality check feedback. I love that. So back to the question I asked the audience listening and tuning in live, where have you found a personal success with working with a mentor, and what does that look like? So as much or as little information as you want to give, but reality check feedback I think is awesome. So Pete, I've heard the word mentor. I haven't heard the word sponsor and advisor much in this conversation. So, what's the distinction between those? A mentor, a sponsor, an advisor. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think of these as all advisors, right? These are all guides and advisors. So that's the larger umbrella. And then
Yeah.
as we get into this, we can think about mentor in various different flavors. We actually changed it from sponsor to advocate to be more inclusive and a more positive connotation. And then you could have the coach. And that's where people get into a big, like, oh my gosh, what's the difference of these? And I actually made some updates to a piece in the book around the table, comparing. Yeah, there's the notes on the on the page, Dave. After you publish it, then I'm like, oh well, I think there's room to improve this. So whenever we think about this from the coach, the advocate, and the mentor, right? First thing, mentor is going to guide us. They're going to give of their time whenever we're in these conversations, right? They're going to share some of, hey, here's where you could go, some of the other things that happened to me. The advocate is our super connector, right? You might think of how they could be our bridge. That's the icon, yes, coming from Pittsburgh, but also the bridge to other potential relationships and opportunities, speaking for us and sponsoring us into positions and conversations that we may not be in the room. So, mentor of the time, sponsor of their brand. And then the coach is not really telling us as much as they are actually helping us understand, and they're asking us questions to figure out, hey, we got it inside of us, and they want to be unlocking it along the way. And so the icon there is the whistle, right? Because we think of a coach from a sports aspect, but really that's the piece of the coach. They're guiding, not telling. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Do you tell these people, hey, I want you to be part of my boardroom as a mentor, and like it? How do you approach that conversation with them? General, like, so that they're, like, now defined as part of your boardroom? Um, is that different for everybody and how they approach that conversation with those people? Like, what kinda tips would you give someone as they're like, having that first initial conversation with someone like, yeah, I think Joe is going to be one of my mentors in the future. I need to start talking to him and seeing if he's open to that. Like, how does that kind of like an interview for a job? It's like, okay, well, I'm interviewing my mentors, right? So
Mhm.
how does that conversation, what would you give as some tips with that?
Yeah, it comes up often, and it's not one size fits all. This is very much so a one size fits you and one size fits this specific relationship.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of ways to go about it, right? You start off and figure out if they're a good fit. You have that initial conversation. You're able to accomplish that. Okay, check the box. I'd suggest you go into, conversation 2, 3, and as you get into that attitude of gratitude moment, you can say, "Hey, David, I really appreciate our conversations up to this point. Been so helpful." And I don't know if you've read Pathfinders or not, but it talks about these couple of different board seats, and he kind of been filling my accountability partner board seat. I don't know if you realize it or not, but I just want to say thanks. Like, you helped me grow so much, and it's really been, fantastic. Example 1, 2, 3, date and time 1, 2, 3, so that there's a little bit more oomph to it, and it's just an empty thank you. That's one way of going about it, which is very different than me just picking up the phone and say, "Hey, I found you on LinkedIn, and then I stalked you everywhere and found your phone number and calling you at work in the middle of the day whenever you're probably in a meeting or something else, and I really need you to be my accountability partner." What are you going to say to that? Who in the world? The audacity? No way. Right. And so trying to figure out the mix in between those two things,
Yeah.
but you can also in some of those conversations explore and say, "Hey, I am looking for a cross-functional mentor, right? I filled a couple of these board seats, but I'm looking for somebody that has some different experience, and it could be internal to the organization or external to the organization." That's why we proactively do these networking things. So I'm not totally against you putting your hand up and saying, "Hey, I'd like to find this kind of sort of board seat to be added to my PBA Personal Board of Advisors." There's a couple different ways we can go about it.
Okay. So I'm hearing you talk about this, and I want to focus more on the organization approach and how organizations can encourage their employees to build their own boardrooms, right, within their company walls and beyond their company walls. So how and what advice would you give to an organization that wants to support this? Because I look at it as, when am I gonna have the time to do this? Am I gonna be able to do this on work time? Am I gonna have to do this on a weekend? It's part of my personal time. How can what advice would you give organizations in this situation?
You either can or you can't, and that decision's up to you. And I'd suggest that everybody take a look at your turnover numbers and your internal time for promotion and internal filling of roles numbers. And hopefully, you quickly get to a point of you can't afford not to. And
Right.
there's plenty of ways to do this with low to no tech. But this is totally the reason why we started the company Latitude, David, is
Yeah.
so that people are able to say, "Hey, this is important. We got to do something for our people. How are we able to add a little bit of structure, process, and accountability through this?" And if that's something that an organization's trying to set out and do and accomplish, let's
Yep.
have a conversation. If we're not able to help them out, I'll be very clear and let
Yep.
them know. If we are, able to help some and then connect them over to a partner, then we'll be clear on that. And if
Yeah.
we say, "Hey, it's a great fit," I'll say, "Hey, it's a great fit. Let's see if we can actually get something going." Reminder, everybody, that January is National Mentoring Month. So reach out with kind of your ideas, your thoughts, what you have planned. There's some things that are super simple. And I'd go back to the other piece of your question of, when am I going to have time for this? Well, hopefully there are some manager one-on-ones that are already taking place. Okay, cool. That's number one.
Yep.
How often are your stay interviews happening inside your organization? Great opportunity to weave in board C2 of the accountability partner. You already have a buddy program of some sort, so there was time for that in your business process already. Okay, there's 3 parts now. Did you know that mentors are 5 times more likely to get promoted than those that are not guiding and learning from others?
Hmm.
So, whether it's a promotion in title and salary, or a promotion of being able to do more and have more skills and achieve more and more accomplishments. So I'd say that piece of, would you be okay, David, if the folks in your organization were going to feel more connected, want to stay there longer, be able to do more, and just overall drive productivity and profitability? So you find some leaders that say no to that. And okay, well, maybe we'll move on past that piece. What about that sense of belonging? We hear that that's kind of an important thing, this bit of loneliness, social isolation. Oh, by the way, what is it? Nurses and HR practitioners are the number one and two burnt out professions. So what if we were able to help our friends in HR and then also help them help the rest of their people across the organization? Seems kind of sort of like a no-brainer. So does it take time? Yeah. Is it a worthwhile investment? Big time, yes. Does it have to be done outside of work? That's kind of sort of up to you. I'd say if you want to go above and beyond and you want to get the true well-rounded experience, probably fill a couple of your board seats, whether formally or informally, with some people from an outside perspective. But
Right.
there's so much. We just talked about 4 or 5 board seats we can fill within our organization with that process and structure right here.
Right. And the other ones, if you go to your manager, your company, and you see a chamber of commerce event, a luncheon that interests you, be like, "Hey, can I go? We're a member, right, of this chamber. Can I go to this event? And I want to go check it out. Is that okay?" Worst they can do is say no, and maybe your views of that company change because of their value in how they view that kind of situation. But you will stand out if you are the one that goes to your manager and company and says, "Hey, I saw this event. I'm interested in going." Like, that is such an easy way to just get out and meet new people, network, find the right potential other board members of your mentorship. So very important to do that. So thanks for bringing all that up. I think that's really good advice for a leader, manager, business owner. So if you are watching live, don't forget to write before you leave. Career map, write that in the comment section, and you can be entered in the drawing for a copy of Pete's book, Pathfinders. And if you get picked, he will reach out and make sure that you get that. So, Pete, I'll leave you with this. If someone's listening today and just took one action after this episode, what should it be? And how can they start building their own personal boardroom?
Yeah, I think to check out the book, Pathfinders, Navigating Your Career Map with a Personal Board of Advisors. And whether it's for you or it's for somebody that is part of your family, right? Somebody that your parents or your kids or your relatives, maybe it's somebody from a volunteer work, from coach, from school, from those different places. This is somebody that can help people in the 5 stages of their career. Think pre-career, early career, mid-career, late career, post-career. And it's something where we say, hey, we're talking a lot about how we can find mentors and how we can put together a career map, but also think about it. Once I understand a little bit of a framework, then I can guide those others as I am a mentor and I'm sharing my career map to them. So this methodology is meant for people at every stage of the organization so that we can help them. So check that out, and even just take 15 minutes later today or block it off on your calendar later this week and just listen to this again. I don't think David and the Work Defined Podcast Network will be unhappy with more listens, but just go through and take some notes now that it's able to set in a little bit. And you can do it with just a really fancy technical worksheet, a blank 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, right?
There you
Draw
go.
some of it on one side, draw some of it on the back side, take a picture, send me a message on LinkedIn. Happy to jam back and forth on that, and then share it with somebody else. That's the other piece, right? We talked about don't go alone, just tying everything back together to that piece is as we're figuring out who can guide us, well, let's figure out who can guide us with others along the way. It is a continuous process, and we have to start somewhere and then iterate, 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 and explore opportunities for continued growth.
Absolutely. So you can check Pete's work out at golatitude.com. You can scan the QR code on the screen. Pete, what's the podcast that you're involved in? What do you focus on in your podcast? What's it called?
So remember, I said I'm a engineer, and as you're building a business, you have to do this thing called marketing.
Mm,
And I realized that I was most successful keeping it simple. KISS, right? Keep it simple, Schramm. Tried to make it unique there. So the book, the newsletter, the podcast, they're all the same title. Pathfinders, navigating your career map with a personal board of advisors. So if you Google on pretty much anywhere, you're going to find those different things.
Yeah.
But that's the easiest way. We usually share the newsletter on LinkedIn on about a weekly basis. The podcast, bring guests on and we talk about their career map and personal board of advisors. Hey, what worked, what didn't work? And what we hear a lot of times is hey, I was headed here, but then I went here, and then I did a loop to loop, and I wound up over there, but it really felt like I was up here. And whoa, my gosh, that was so fantastic. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't put together a little bit of a plan. And we bring on folks from each of those 5 career phases,
Yeah.
right? Younger, older, everything in between. Have some exciting guests coming up soon as well to record and to show. But
A lot. You got a lot going on. Got a lot going on. That's exciting. And so yeah, you can check out Pete's work, look him up. If you haven't put in the comments section career map, do that so that you can be part of that drawing before we get off live here. So Pete, it is a really unique time to be either job hunting, looking for a job. It's going to be fascinating how technology and AI will shift that a little bit. And there might be some folks that are listening to this that don't have really much of a mentor that might decide to start doing that. But I also look at it as just trying to build a personal brand and making sure that you're doing everything possible if and when you don't have a job, right? And how can you find a job without being in a situation where you're 7-8 months? Because that's what I'm hearing. It's taken a while for people to find jobs. So the more that you can proactively do these things as you're working, because I've heard people not be working and they're like, oh, I got a career coach. And it's like, you got a career coach because you don't have a job. Would you have done that if you had a job? Right. So I think the things that you focus on, it's being proactive when you have a job and how you want to excel your career in all the phases that you have as you're working. So anyway, I know there's a lot of people listening that might be in a job and they love it. Great, good for you. And there might be people that are just burnt out, like you said, HR folks, they're burnt out. I talk to them, and I'm always hearing from folks in the HR community about what they want to do moving forward, and is it in HR or something else. So there's a lot that we can unravel with this topic, and I think we could talk about it even longer. But I appreciate you coming on, Pete, for the 50th episode. Thank you. Thank you so much. And as you had mentioned, there might be a book that you and I are involved in coming out in the near future. Hopefully next year that is going to happen. So just to I haven't mentioned it much at all on this podcast. So this is the first time that I even brought it up, and he is a little bit more aware of it because he is one that's going to be a part of it. So I'll just leave it at that. Well, Pete, I appreciate your time. It's been great to have you on. Hopefully we'll connect again soon. Thanks everybody for watching live. And again, before you get off, put in their career map in the chat and you can be part of that drawing. And if you win, you will hear from Pete to get your copy of Pathfinder. So Pete, best of luck in everything you're doing. I appreciate your time. Everyone have a great Monday, and we'll talk to you all soon.
thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Appreciate it.